it is.
Top of the morning. Thank you so much for starting your day with us again on Western Spring Television. Welcome to Morning Spring. As they say here in this part of the world, thank God it's Friday. And thank you for waking up with us and joining us on Morning Spring on WSTV, Western Spring Television, where we'll bring it to you as it is. Femi Olanikpekun is my name. I'm glad to have you join us on Morning Spring this morning.
Thanks for joining us, viewers. Good morning. I'm Timothy
Well, so like I pray all of the time, may you find the springs, may you have the springs that make you achieve all of what you want today. And it's such a very difficult period for most Nigerians coming in this morning as past 6:30, you see queues stretching kilometers.
Yes.
You know, in these axes, it's terrible, and it borders on irresponsibility on the part of leaders that we've not been able to fix this problem.
Yes, and we've been having a lot of blame game as well.
Blame game, and so we've had security agencies giving orders and directives, and nothing as yet is happening.
Yes.
I was forced to go on queue again myself yesterday, and I bought a 320 naira per litre. And I've had reports of people also buying for as much as 400, 600 in some part of the country. It's terrible. It's terrible. So, and it seems to be the period for queues. So you queue for fuel, you queue for your PVC, you queue for the new Naira notes. This is very, very troubling. This is not too good for the average Nigerian, and we do hope that these problems are sorted and fixed as soon as possible.
We hope so too.
Well, let's bring you the newspapers. That will be after this short break. All right, so we'll bring you the newspapers now, and we start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, and it's about the stories of ATMs drying up, banks being short of new notes, and some other issues there. But let's start with the banner headline. It's about the 20th Daily Trust dialogue. The candidate's blueprint cannot solve Nigeria's problems. That's according to panelists at that event. There are two major parties lack ideological identity, or NAYECON, that's for the riders. Manifestos mere academic work. There are more desperados than Democrats among candidates. Kabiru Yusuf, and we have full confidence in INEC. That's according to the United States.
Very, very, strong words there. We have Kabiru Yusuf saying that there are more desperados than Democrats amongst these candidates. Yeah. And it's also said that there are many manifestos that are mere academic works, other than they're not practical. I think that's what the president is saying. It's just you talking, and it's more of paperwork, more than it is. It's just like there are no blueprints like we can see. Okay, you don't have, the practical or the know-how on how to. You don't always say how you would go about it. You just say what you're going to do. So we need people moving past or the candidates moving past what you're going to do. Now we need how you're going to do it, because we have everybody saying we're going to take people out of IDPs, we're going to solve insecurity issues. How are you going to do that?
Give us specifics.
Exactly.
Break it down. So that's what the panelists there, the Daily Trust Dialogue, is saying, that the blueprint cannot solve our problems. And they're saying that the manifestos are mere academic work that just give to Nigerians. They're asking for something, just give it to them. The workability of such manifestos and blueprints is now being called to question. And we do hope that we progress in our democratic journey, in our nationhood journey, to a time where we'll be able to proffer solutions to some of these challenges. And then our parties, we have proper ideological identity, and as such also we know what we're voting for and what we're asking for. Just above that story and below the nameplate is about the bank notes, the new notes. Banks short of new notes as ATMs dry up, with the rider reps tackle commercial banks over new currency policy. we are constrained by CBN guidelines, bank executives.
All right. Just this morning, I was reading that Emefiele is not around. That he has traveled again with the president.
This time with the president.
Yes.
Not on a vacation.
Yes. And then the reps are threatening, sanctions, different kinds of sanctions, because it was summoned. Okay, you won't be there. You've been summoned before that time. Why did you not tell them that you won't be in the country? And why did you even have to leave the country at a time like that?
I mean, so must you be part of the president's, entourage, if at all. And like you stressed, you've been invited before. And so if you couldn't even make it, could you have sent someone to represent you?
Yeah.
For me, I feel it's the height of disrespect on the part of the CBN governor. I'm not showing
the height of insensitivity
because the parliament is the sovereign. I mean, the parliament represents the people, so it's the Nigerian people calling you. And this is a matter that, if not well managed, can pitch this country into some crisis.
Yes.
Because you're looking at people complaining, POS operators put out of business, people going to ATMs, you're insisting that you're not going to extend the deadline beyond the 31st. People go to the ATMs, when they get to the ATM, they still get the old notes.
Yes.
I talked about here how the school that my kids attend sent in a notice and said, for parents who want to bring in cash, don't bring cash again. Please, all school fees should be sent to the bank. So you see there'll be friction between, different business concerns, individuals. And we're asking you to come and explain, give us rationale why we should continue to extend or we should not extend this. And you've not shown up. So it's good that the House of Representatives Speaker, Gwede Biamila, is saying he's going to put friendship aside. I think they are friends. He's friends with the CBN governor, and it shows here now they are dealing with themselves also. But he's saying he's going to put friends aside.
Yes, we have to put
friendship aside, and then maybe I hope that today maybe we'll get some more clarity.
It's even more disturbing that it said the ATMs dry up. Yeah. So it means that they're not willing to dispense the old notes again because of the deadline.
Because of the pressure from the CBN.
So
yes.
They're not even dispensing at all. So people can neither get the old notes nor the new ones.
Oh my goodness! I mean, what a time!
It's becoming chaotic.
What a time to be a Nigerian.
To the deadline.
And the bank executives are also insisting that whatever anyone says, Nigerians shout. Or the House of Reps of the National Assembly is saying we should extend, that they cannot do anything because they are constrained by CBN guidelines. The only person they listen to is the CBN, not the National Assembly. It's such a very, very difficult one there for most Nigerians. Let's see how it's managed. Today is the last working day. Something need be done. The CBN governor insisted there's going to be no extension, but reality is preaching otherwise. Okay, so just below the banner headline of the paper, we foiled 66 attempts to hack fake virtual meetings, FG. That's on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Why would anyone want to hack the fake virtual meetings? For what reason? To embarrass government? Or to be part of the discussions there? Ministers are discussing matters of state.
I think we've had a lot of back and forth with the denials, really. So these people must want to really get the stories right from the mouths of those that are saying them. Before you come again and tell us this is what we agreed upon and this isn't what we agreed upon. But then it is a very wrong move.
Well, so troops neutralize 84 terrorists in northeast, northwest, rescue 122 victims in 2 weeks. Kudos to the Nigerian troops. And death toll from Nasarawa bombing rises to 40. Governor Sule, that's on page 49 of the Daily Trust newspaper. I might not talked about that yesterday, how it's shameful that is happening, that this is not the first time this is happening. We've had several of these incidents. I remember one of the worst cases was that of Ran, where the Nigerian Air Force mistakenly bombed an IDP camp and hundreds of people were killed. I don't know why, is it that the intelligence that they have before doing those sorties are wrong, or someone is not doing due diligence, or is it because there's been no consequences? Is that why we keep having these again and again?
Most of it is because there's been no consequence. because just yesterday again, the Air Force was still saying that they followed all, necessary guidelines, during the airstrike. But then people are dying. And the death toll is not about terrorists now. It's people, the civilians who cannot even, protect themselves. So something needs to be done, to the appropriate authority. Sanctions need to be made.
Okay, so the last story on the Daily Trust newspaper here. Mafab scandal, Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Enugu to 5G network rollout plan. You can get more details on that story on page 36 of the Daily Trust newspaper. 5G is here finally, but it's not here with us in Oshogbo yet. Maybe we'll wait for our time. But that's start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right, moving on quickly to the Nation newspaper. The Bala headline says, Petrol crisis, PDP colluding with saboteurs, says Tinubu and the riders. Atiku trying to pit Tinubu against Buhari. Protesters block Benin Lagos road. That's still on the comment of Tinubu, I think, when it was an Ogun State campaigning. Yeah,
so, some experts have said that is Abeokuta 2. That Abeokuta 1 was when he said the Emilio Kan Osukunlori television, statement. So it said there's something that about Abeokuta and Ogun State that sort of brings out some very hard talk from Tinubu. But there's been some efforts at managing that statement. Yes. There's been some efforts at managing and
trying to correct the impression.
I think that's why there was a statement from the campaign council saying that it was misconstrued or misinterpreted, and that's why he's also doubling down here and saying using the PDP. The PDP is not in power, for God's sake.
Yeah, but Tinubu's explanation was that the PDP had been in power for about 16 years, and they kept putting their people who are sympathizers of the PDP in power. So now it is time that they are, pulling their rope to make things very hard for Nigerians.
So that's the argument. So 16 years. We see going with that line. It's been 8 years of the party also. In power. So
if things needed to have been done, it could have been corrected within that space of time. But then Tinubu is still holding on to the past.
So who should Nigerians blame for the current crisis now?
Past
the PDP
or the present?
Okay. All right. So Nigerians will make up their mind to decide on who to hold responsible. And the protesters that blocked the Benin Lagos road is a sign of what is to come if this crisis is not well managed. If this fuel crisis is not handled and is not, sorted within the next few days. So tensions are boiling over here.
Yes, because even as it is, the queues alone are already causing a lot of chaos on the roads. So now imagine protesters coming out in their numbers. It's going to be really,
I believe these are students saying we're not going to take this anymore because so how do you imagine my earnings, my salary has not been increased? There's inflation. There is the cost of living in Nigeria, the cost of, commodities that has eaten deep into my pay. And now I need to cope and grapple with again fuel. Because for those who do not even have cars and generators at home, one popular comedian made, very silly, very ignorant joke yesterday. And say, talking to those who said that shouting, that they're also complaining about fuel, and they said that you do not have a car, you do not have a generator, so why are you shouting about fuel?
This concerns everybody.
So it's not ignorant.
Exactly.
Yes, everyone is affected. So it's insensitive. Whether you own a car or generator, you're going to board public transport. The public transporters have increased their fares. You go to the market, there's a multiplier effect on almost everything. So I do hope that our security agencies are also able to furnish government with security reports on these,
happenings, on the effects.
Yes, because this is rising and could snowball into a bigger crisis.
All right, the bottom strip of the paper, 324 Ondo civil servants risk being declared ghost workers. We've been having a lot of ghost worker, syndrome in the past, and all across.
I think that this is all over most parts. That's why some people have advocated introduction of technology, digitizing the civil service so that you can manage issues like these.
All of the paperwork. I think it's because the government does not have enough database or sufficient or accurate database to monitor the number of workers, who are really or actually doing the job. Well, just above the banner headline, why polls must count? That's by Obasanjo and Wike. That's, I think, during a conference yesterday.
Yeah, in Port Harcourt.
Yeah.
And the polls must really count. We've made a lot of progress in our electoral systems, and it has been commended. But we should say also that the tribunal judgment today, and the eventual outcome at the Supreme Court will go a long way in determining the fate and future of how we conduct our elections. Osun has been somewhat interestingly placed, in the history of Nigeria, because most of the things that happen here, in terms of our election is before the general elections, and some of the litigation issues also have far-reaching implications on the system, because whatever happens here, we have an impact on the next set of elections after the general elections, and could also have impact on whoever wants to litigate around the 2023 general elections.
So somehow it's going to shape the opinion of people.
And even shape policies. They shape policies. But we must stress that, like Obasanjo and Wike are saying, polls and votes must count.
All right, anxiety in Osun, APC, PDP ahead of verdict. Yes, that's what we still said. People are really awaiting what the verdict will be. Okay, so and our colleague Emmanuel, should be on his way to the courts now. He'll give us updates on what's happening there. Yes, we're looking forward to that.
Coming down here this morning, you could see heightened security presence. Some roads in and around the area, court area has been blocked by security agents, so the anti-kidnapping and cultism squad, some other security agencies. But whichever way it goes, we appeal for calm, we are appealing for peace.
Very important. All right, just below the nameplate, Nigerians to buy shares with short codes. That's on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. And House threatens Emefiele with arrest over Naira note scarcity. Well, the House
we'll talk about that the other time. Let's see if they'll be able to carry out the threat. It's one thing to threaten. I'm not sure the House of Representatives or even the Senate has ever, activated that part of their powers before. It's always been threats. But
then I still wonder if there is any one person, that has ever violated, or disregarded the House like this.
No, so many of them really. So there are, especially during budgeting processes where you have some officials of some NDAs who refuse to show up. I think it's happened before, and it's unfortunate. Some level of disrespect, to the parliament is also sometimes because of how the parliamentarians have conducted themselves. But we've had it before. I mean, we've had many officials who have refused to honor invitations.
Yeah, but over and over again.
Well, let's see how the House manages this.
Yes. All right, just above the nameplate, CBN plans all card transactions through Afrigo. I think that's our own domestic card. And it says there, the rider domestic card launched. So, I mean, the question here will be, does the domestic card, will it replace our ATM cards? Have an answer to that? No, you don't. Well, so
we'll see. Let's wait and see how this goes.
I think this is our own, maybe. So, I'm looking at,
how banks withdraw and charge you 1,000 naira for card maintenance. Then you wonder, what are they maintaining? My card is in my pocket, as some Nigerians will say, it's in my wallet.
And when you need to replace it, or you need to, renew it after an expiration, you have to pay again.
Yes, so I'm looking at that source of revenue, that's some source of revenue for the banks.
Yeah.
So if I do not know what the plan is with this new domestic card, even when it's implemented, are we saying that the banks no longer have access to issuing ATM cards and we have to use the domestic cards? Perhaps you can get more details on that story on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. We're not speaking just out of line here.
Yes. All right, on page 29, Nigeria's elite are selfish, says Buhari. The writer, President praises Masari.
So, I mean, I'm not comfortable each time the president attacks the Nigerian elite. I mean, so they have their own fair share of the blame. But perhaps the president also belongs to that elite class. But I don't know if it's the Nigerian elite also that's responsible for some of the challenges we're facing today. I mean, so if you take the president's words in proper context, I think it was making reference to the years of the past, how we were living, how we were earning more, and because the party in power then couldn't do much. I think the president is also part of that elite. All our political leaders are part of the elite. Yes. And they should share in that blame. Maybe not the middle class, because when I talk about the elite, I look at maybe the middle class and maybe the upper class. But I think the political class more deserves the blame.
Yes. But, well, it boils down to the fact that the president himself has not been able, in the past 8 years, has not been able to call them, to a gathering or maybe a conference to talk about how they can, better contribute to the society's development. So if you're going to criticize them, you have to first take some steps to include them, in nation building. But then let's see what comes of this statement. All right, on page 6, Pantami 2.2 million jobs created in 2 years. That's Pantami saying that. And immigration process 9.3 million passports in 7 years. Okay,
so I'm interested in the 2.2 million jobs. I want to know which sector created those jobs and where we got those jobs, because I know many people, and according to the official statistics, the NBS, we have more and more Nigerians slipping into unemployment, poverty rising. So I want to know the impact of these 2.2 million jobs. Where and when were these jobs created? But you can get more. Perhaps the minister gave details, in the story. So please do check page 6 of the Nation newspaper. And the other one, immigration processing 9.3 million passports in 7 years.
And so it means that almost immediately this present administration began passports, or the demands for passports.
Yes, and and the minister naturally will also give data about around this time. But I think it's also instructive and also speaks to the current Japa wave. So more and more Nigerians, especially young Nigerians, wanting to leave the country, and they need passports. I think that also explains the upsurge in the number of passports requested and that were eventually produced by the immigrations. But we also need to have some conversations around how easy it is for Nigerians to access and get those passports.
There are a lot of tales to be told on that. All right, that's all on the Nation newspaper.
Okay, so at this point, let's get to the Punch newspaper. Under the nameplate, and that's the banner headline of the paper: mega churches, schools bar old Naira notes payment offering. Interesting times. With the riders' new notes short, it forces banks to shut ATMs. Customers demand extension. The reps threaten Emefiele with arrest. Insist CBN governor must obey summons. Law professor sues CBN. NLC writes Buhari over deadline extension. So we're interesting times.
Very interesting.
So churches, now I told you about my own kids' school experience.
Schools,
so now churches, because I was discussing with some of my colleagues here late last night, and they were saying, okay, so what happens on Sunday, this Sunday? Because when people come around and if they still have the old notes, that's what is going. I mean, that's what they're going to drop in church. So will the pastor mount the pulpit and say, "Oh, you congregation, do not give to the Lord this Sunday morning old notes"? How do we manage that?
It's a very dicey situation, really. Very, very dicey. Well, I think what they will do this time is to use all the other e-platforms, you know.
So how many people use e-platforms? My grandmother does not use e-platform, so she will want to drop the money she has in her pocket. Most probably the old note.
Yes.
Let's see. This is what we're saying about setting a stage for crisis. And so for I can imagine a situation or a scenario where the school, you know, a parent has only the old note. Does not have access to the banks or, you know, an e-platform to transfer, and maybe in some of the areas where you do not have banks in such local government, and he wants to pay the school fees of his kids, of his or her kids, and he goes to the school with old notes, and the school rejects, and you threaten that you're going to send the boy out of class.
Well, I think the churches and the schools are two different institutions. So I think that the schools would have to bear with parents in this period. But then the churches will have to forego some offerings or tithes during this period. If they don't want the old notes, it means that people would either refrain from paying or try to use the other e-platforms, like I said, or, you know, whatever. But the schools, it's compulsory you pay, but then it can be, you know, excused for now.
So we're setting up the stage for some big crisis. We need to find a way of managing these. If there are no notes on the ATMs, now, like he said earlier on about the fact that because there are no new notes, the banks also want to stop issuing the old notes.
Yes.
So customers are left stranded. And let's see if Emefiele will be arrested if he doesn't appear before the House. And the NLC is also writing Buhari. Some people have asked about where the NLC is in all of these, especially in terms of this fuel crisis. We'll come to that later on. Okay, so just beside the nameplate is about Osun again. Adeleke versus Oyetola. Tribunal rules today. Please warn troublemakers. Tribunal rules today. Please warn troublemakers. And just above the nameplate, Katsina Youth's protest hardship stood officials during Buhari's visit. AGF pays $446 million Ajaokuta judgment debt. AGF pays $446 million Ajaokuta judgment debt. And graft, ICPC rearrest former JAM registrar. So, the story about the Katsina Youth protesting hardship, stoning officials during Buhari's visit is instructive.
Yes, and it goes to show what you have been saying, that in the days to come, we're going to, we might be looking at possible chaos in the nation, you know, due to several things. You know, insecurity is there, the new notes pressure, and every other thing in the country as it is. And so, but then we shouldn't always resort to, you know, violence all the time.
We should not resort to violence all of them. That's very important that we should stress that. And there are some pictures on the front page of the Punch newspaper, very disturbing ones. It's about the Balogun market. Traders bemoan losses as fire guts Lagos market. That's the Balogun market. Very, very disturbing. Very, you know, property worth millions, hundreds of millions.
This is about the second or third, you know, in recent times.
Oh my goodness.
So,
oh my goodness, you could see traders trying to salvage whatever is left of their goods. This is troubling.
It is. I just hope that more structure and more security measures can be, you know, put or installed in our markets.
More safety measures, such that we do not have a repeat of these again and again. We've had incidences of fire in markets, in stores across the country. There should be, you know, we should have, you know, a fire policy that is enforced right from the point of building structures. You should have, you know, there should be some
devices
things,
to detect.
There should be some things that you put in place. There should be some certification. There should be some inspection from the fire service. But you know who we are in Nigerians. Even if there are the laws, the agencies involved might be weak. Nigerians themselves will find a way of circumventing, that policy, and find a way of bribing someone, not to actually follow. But and in the interest, you pay for it ultimately.
Yes, but I also think that the government can also, be wiser than the people now. By we could have a fire service within the market, or very close to the market. That could also help to forestall things like this, or to,
All right, so the bottom strip of the paper: petrol scarcity, protesters block Lagos Benin Expressway, page 25 of the Punch newspaper. We talked about that earlier on.
Yes.
My wife battled for survival as hospitals refused treatment. Slain lawyer's husband. That is a very sad one.
Yes.
And it's spotlighting our healthcare system also, and how we manage issues like this. Is it because they were not well equipped? Is that why they couldn't treat the slain lawyer then? Or is it because in some time past, we were always asking for police report? But I'm not sure that's the case. Maybe the case was a terrible one. I mean, was such a very serious one. They didn't have the facility to attend to that.
Well, hospitals do that, when you bring people that they feel are in very critical conditions. Sometimes they just reject them, but I don't think they should.
Yes, I mean, is there a way you could to stabilize
the person
before you now send the person?
Try.
Make some effort, But the last story here on the Punch newspaper is power tariff shortfall now 2.5 trillion naira. That's according to the federal government, and that's the last story on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Right, moving on quickly to the Guardian. We have the banner headline saying stampede as Nigerians tackle CBN deadline on cash swap. It's really becoming a serious issue, more serious than we even imagined. Gbajabiamila threatens Emefiele with arrest over non-appearance. We're bound by CBN's guidelines, bank tells reps. NLC charges CBN to extend deadline. Dawn approaches court to restrain CBN, Emefiele on deadline. CBN unfazed, unveils domestic cash scheme. Buhari's visit hampers business activities, Naira swap in Katsina. Bank workers count bulk cash manually as machines break down. Scarcity of new notes threatens POS operators. Act now, Nigerians facing hardships over fuel scarcity. New notes, Ghana tells FG. Emefiele not begin a National Assembly, says MBF spokesman. Some very interesting writers.
A number of writers there. Very interesting story from different angles.
Yes.
The issue of the threat of arrest, topping the list there, and banks telling reps that they can't do anything without the say-so of the CBN. The NLC is asking CBN to extend the deadline. I still want to believe that reason will prevail, that the CBN will cave in to the request of Nigerians to extend this deadline.
Yes, and the banks are not having it easy either. Their machines are already breaking down from counting huge bulk of money, in the past days. It's really weighing down on everybody. On the banks,
and that's going to even, oh my goodness. So I wonder how put the way we do our policies here. So the bankers are breaking down. There'll be tension between bank officials and customers. There'll be mistakes. It was to make the job faster, to eliminate errors. That's why those machines were introduced in the first place. Now they've broken down. The bank officials have resorted now, gone back to counting by hand. So how do you count? If I bring in 1 million naira, for instance, how many hours will that take you for me to count?
So it's really not easy. The CBN just has to cave in. They have to cave in. And
and the POS operators also have been complaining. They have no, they their businesses and operations have been impacted.
Yeah.
You know, let's just wait, you know, for today, before the end of work today. We should get some more news about what is to come regarding that.
Yes, all right. We can also see the queues, you know, on the picture there. And just below that, Ogoni, after 7 years, residents lament slow pace of cleanup. I think that's from, you know, all the, you know, oil spillage.
Yes, I mean, all the oil spillage. The Ogoni cleanup was launched with fanfare when the president came into power in 2015. But like the Guardian is reminding us here, 7 years after, not much has been heard or seen about the cleanup. It was launched with fanfare, I remember that time, and it was said to be a game changer, something that will define.
Yes,
you know,
but here residents are still lamenting.
Not much has been heard since then.
All right, just below the nameplate, ICPC uncovers fresh evidence, rearrests ex-JAMB registrar for January Day.
I mean, for the former JAMB registrar, it's raining. It's a heavy rain for him. He just got off, you know, maybe slightly. He was released at some point. Now he's been rearrested again because there's fresh evidence, really. Yes. So, but it's also instructive for those holding public offices, holding offices in trust for the Nigerian people, to be careful.
Yes, how they manage their office while there. All right, more of that story is on page 3. Now, just beside it, I didn't criticize Buhari over fuel scarcity. Naira redesign, only offered advice. Tinubu clarifies. And more of that is on page 7.
Walking back the talk, yeah, really. So, some damage control here. The video has gone viral. The video has been seen by almost everyone. So you heard what was said, but then you are left to make sense of what you heard.
Maybe next time we want to make, you know, comments, or we want to make, you know, in our speeches, it should be with some sort of clarity. You know, you don't leave it open so that people don't start to form opinions around whatever it is that is said. So I think this would, you know, help the campaign team now to do better. All right, on page 7, AFDB, IFAD signed new pact to support 40 million African farmers, increase financing. All right, that's on page 7.
Good one. For African farmers.
Yes. Students march against tuition fee hike, loan bill in Gombe. All right, so everything is on the rise, even tuition fees. It's not going to be.
The only thing that is not rising is salaries of Nigerians. That's the only thing not rising. Every other thing is rising.
All right. The bottom strip of the paper says youths protest as Buhari commissions projects in Katsina. Yes.
I mean, this is big. I mean, youths protesting in the president's home state, and you've seen some of the rallies done by the opposition. You've seen the kind of crowd is been able to pull.
Yes.
The crowds, we should stress, are not determining factor for outcome of elections.
Yes.
But these protests and some of the other reports we've heard in time past, you know, you can gauge the feeling of the ordinary folks in that state who feel disappointed. It's really, you know, they've been impacted a lot by insecurity in that state.
Yes.
They perhaps they had high hopes, higher expectations, and little has been delivered.
So it shows disappointment, you know, build up of disappointment.
Yeah.
All right, that's all on The Guardian as well.
And that's that on the papers this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll take a break. We'll return with our guest. But remember, today, the tribunal in Osun, here in Oshogbo, will be delivering judgment on the election petition brought before it by the candidate of the APC, former governor of Osun State, Adegboyega Oyetola, challenging the victory of Ademola Adeleke, the candidate of the PDP, who is the current governor of the state. That's going to be at the State High Court. That's the venue of the tribunal. There's increased security around town. And Emmanuel will be giving us some update before the end of the show today. Just give us some update about that very tribunal, and so the judgments, we hope that before the end of the day, we'll be able to give you something and maybe give some more analysis also on all of our platforms, on TV and on radio, through our news and others on the program today. We'll be back after this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. You see on to Morning Spring and Western Spring Television. We'll bring it to you as it is. It's a very historic day here in Osun. Emmanuel will be joining us before the end of the show to give us updates from the tribunal. But we should focus now on some other issues this morning. It's about local government autonomy and our news. I mean, we got news about 2 or 3 days ago about the fact that the constitutional amendment that's been dragging on. In fact, we've not had one since 1999. All the efforts have yielded no result. But this current one, the states have refused to support local government autonomy. The National Assembly has passed on some of the other bills to the president. So, I mean, we're looking at that again, spotlighting how important the local government is to Nigeria's functionality and why the governors, the houses of assembly are not interested or do not really want to support local government autonomy. We're joined in the studios this morning by Comrade Larry Fadamsi, retired as a director in a local government civil service, and is also a public affairs commentator. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Spring this morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, so I mean, that news about states rejecting local government autonomy, how does it come to you?
To me, we've always known that the greatest beneficiary of local government funds has been the states, and to the detriment of the public, of the people. And as such, you see, when such forces are at play, you won't be surprised when you see certain things. However, interestingly, I think on the floor of the Senate, while it wasn't presented, it was Senator, I think, Okpeyemi Bamidele of Ekiti State. And to me, it was strange for some reasons, you know, because Okpeyemi Bamidele, while we were in Ife, was a student union leader. And you begin to wonder what office does. It wasn't his fault. It was what was presented by the Houses of Assembly. But you will recall the time there was an issue that Smart Adeyemi, against all odds, the journalist in him made him speak out some things. You won't be surprised when Senator from Ora, Adeyeye, spoke about the Constitution and the issues with it. And so some of these things, when it happens, if indeed, recall in the 60s, it was regional. In the 50s and early 60s, before independence, it was regional government. And at that time, you hear of Wole Kilori Town. Those were the things that were dealing with public health, public works department, that were taking care of issues, part-time, real-time. But at the end of the day, we were saying we have democracy and we have presidential system of government, and all of a sudden, it eroded the service rendering to the people. And let's now go down the line. When this thing was presented before the assembly, now they have expunged the local government reforms because the Housing Assembly did not approve of it. However, from 4 to 8 amendments that were presented were issues about change of local government names, change of local government, but on the item 9 was autonomy for legislative and judiciary, state legislature and judiciary. So that one is what will benefit the assemblies, and it was top on the agenda. However, they don't want the local governments to be free, and you can see what development has become. How many local governments have motorable roads now? Because the funds, I tell you, there is no local government that does not receive as much as 100 million monthly from the federal allocation. But what do we have? You don't see any funding going there. I've been in that system and I've seen it work when things were normal. Now let's go into perspective. I must refer to this. Part of the greatest successes made by Aregbesola administration, the governor is a minister now, were those things that were done bottoms up. You go to the local government, to the wards, what does your community want? It was a UNICEF replicated project. You give people what they ask for. You don't just sit in your office as a governor and say, let me give everybody roads. Everybody does not need roads. There are peculiar things that communities need. But when you are now thinking for the people, you are not hearing from them. So you now have a borehole, they don't drink. Why? You cited a borehole where it was a leper colony. How will they drink it? You don't have the history of their community. So people have just taken laws into their hands and just look at it as, okay, let's just do it. You say there's corruption. Where is there not corruption? Because that's one of the things they posit. It is graded by the levels you are. I look at Ghana because we have to look at ourselves and compare. I look at Ghana about some 8-9 years back. The United States provided Ghana funds free. It was not a loan to construct a 7-road channel in Accra. Why? Because the government of Ghana was frugal and doing well in terms of public fund. Ghana does not have governors. Ghana operates municipal government, a metropolitan government, municipal government, and they have representatives there. It's the local government. The focal point of development should be the local government.
Nigeria's stunted growth is because of the, non-functionality of the local government.
Emasculation of the local government system. There was financial memorandum of expenditure that guides and controls how you spend local government funds. But gradually, it was in existence, but gradually they took it over. They made local governments irrelevant. Even taxes and rates that the Constitution allows the local government to collect. States have taken it over, given it to consultants and all that, and you know why. We all know why.
Why? We don't know.
Because it won't go into the accounts of the local government. The consultants will pay pittance into the accounts of the state government, and some people own the agencies who are doing the work. Who owns those agencies? At the end of the day, it's trackable because they are registered companies in some names. So unfortunately, we have to tell ourselves the truth. The state assembly people across the nation, you won't be talking about one state now, because of all the 36 states in Nigeria, about 24 who responded and returned for the constitutional amendment did not return the issue of local government autonomy. NOGI, National Union of Local Government Employees, fought it tooth and nail to have it, accepted. The assembly members will say, okay, no problem, we are with you, and they did otherwise. However, I know it will come a time that the people themselves will speak up about this because it is not helping. A local government chairman, I tell you, lives within those communities in most cases. They know his father, they know his mom, and of course, everybody with them. And you'll discover that if the chairman is not doing well, his family members will go to him and tell him, bros, you are not representing us well. Because in the market, they abuse us. On the streets, they talk at us. But who knows who can get to the state government to talk to anybody?
So
we need
this. So whose fault is it really that the local government autonomy bills were not passed?
Now, I think we should get to the nitty-gritties of it.
Okay.
Now, there was a time that our people were selfish to an extent. The election was held, we had local government chairmen in place, and they were to send school enrollment because they were to pay local government primary school teachers. The primary school teachers were under the purview of the local government for payment of salaries. And so some probably thinking that would add to their revenue from the federation account, bloated the figures of their staff. Then those urban local governments had more people who wanted to come and work there. And so those figures were sent in, and And all of a sudden, some local governments were collecting zero allocation. Zero allocation in the sense that by the time you deduct salaries of primary school teachers, nothing is left in the till for the local government. They now said, okay, how do we dance around this? Let us pool all resources of local governments together, which means if every local government is earning as much as 100 million and you have 30, that is some 3 billion pooled together in a joint allocation. And when that is pooled together, you now say, okay, how much is the total wage bill of primary school teachers? Because it's within the purview of the local governments to do. You now remove that and now share what is left of it so that everybody will have something. But the fraud in it is that instead of questioning those who bloated figures, they now brought that holistic approach of solving a problem that has not left now. However, our governors didn't now want that to change. Yes, they have done biometrics for workers, so you can't bloat figures of staff again. So that settles that problem. Why not allow the funds go to the accounts of local government? There were times that local governments would just prepare bill of measurement and evaluation for contracts, send it to the state. The state will give contracts out to its own people. So the contractor will come from Lagos, bring trailers of cement, not buying from the local government that owns the fund, bring iron rods, buying from factory, not buying from those people. Whereas if the contracts were awarded at the local government level, the chairman will award maybe 100 meters per political leader or friends or whatever, people in the local government will do 100 meters, something goes to everybody. The person selling cement that I know, when I get a 200-meter line drainage to do, will supply me cement. That means I'm buying locally. That means the funds of that local government, it stays within the local government and it's recycled there. So those who make 2,000, 3,000 from it, I tell you, some people will come even with laborers.
But what about the quality? So perhaps
quality is there is measure, control measures. You have external auditors, you have internal auditors, you have engineers that come. So that supervisory role is still there. So if you want to do it well, you still do it well. But the fact remains that that local government was captured as owners of the fund. But in most cases, that fund does not stay in that local government. Some even employed artisans permanently. So when they're on a project, the bricklayers finish their work, the next people to work there is carpenters. He brings his carpenters, his bricklayers go and start to work in another local government. And the people who are bricklayers, who are artisans in all of those local governments sit down and watch, and the refunds of their local governments are depleted by people who are strangers to them. So all these things, when the money that belongs to the local government is spent within the local governments, it turns the economy around. That is why there is that high level of poverty everywhere, because the governors have cornered the resources and kept it to themselves.
I mean, so just before Tokwe comes in, so is this really about the governors? I mean, these bills were put before the Houses of Assembly across 36 states, and so the assembly members represent the people. They came from different constituencies. It's their job to do. So why are we heaping the blame on the governors?
We're not heaping the blames on the governors. The fact is, when people talk about, because in most cases you discover when you're talking about some things, you see people talking about restructuring, you see people talking about constitutional amendment, because the Constitution, that was an Abacha government factored Constitution that was brought out in 1999 by the accidental president, Abdulsalam Abubakar. Now, Abacha was almost the president of Nigeria, if not that God said, come home. And so he needed all the powers that he used as the president, I mean, as the military head of state, as the civilian president. So that constitution was skewed towards that, one. And by extension, because governors at the state level were also executives, that powers enormously was transferred also to them. It's not by their fault. It's not by them, but it's because of the Constitution. And so we're not heaping it on them, but the strength they carry. How many assemblies are free of control from the state executive in Nigeria, of the 36 states? How many? How many assemblies are free? mostly, I would say 5%, if any. Because the governor at electoral stage is in control of who emerges. That's why you discover in an assembly of like 30, if they conduct an election, the party at the helm of affairs at the state level is probably having 90%. Because the governor will put in everything so that there won't be any form of challenge from the assembly. And so seamlessly things go through. That's why most assembly members know that if local governments were free, it will make them even more popular in their own domain. Because they can influence determinations of what goes on in the local government. The local government is under the purview of state assemblies. They go there to get their budgets approved. They go there to answer queries too, if they don't perform according to the budget. Do you understand? So it's actually the assembly that has allowed what was supposed to be its powers to be devolved to the executive over the local government. Like, for instance, you want to do a project in the local government, the state gives you a limit that the local government chairman can approve, the limit that the council, that is the chairman and his councillors, can approve, and an amount that they have to send their proposals to the state. That was how it was working. You bring your proposal up, your engineer does it, you want to do asphalt tarring of roads, you send it to the state looks at the amount, they approve it, they send it back to you. You are the one to tell your contractor and pick your contractor and pay your contractor. But they will come back and still supervise did the contractor deliver before you can pay. So that's check and balance is supposed to be enough. But that's no longer there at all.
At all?
At all. It's zero. As a matter of fact, at some point I was laughing. At some point in the state, even payment of workers' salaries were done from the state.
For local government officials?
For local government officials, for local government pensioners, under the so-called CHAMS, that was a company that was brought to be paying them.
That was not the case before.
That was not the case. And at some point, I questioned something. Local government, I may bold to say so, local government has chartered accountants. I can chartered accountants at the helm of affairs as the directors of finance. And you now said an agency outside. You see, technology has so made things easy that you can control corruption easily, even from your table as governor. So why insist on bringing people from outside to do and now pay them from the coffers of the local government, and we say there is no money? Drain pipes on the economy of the people. Unfortunately, this is not the end of the matter, because I know it has to be interrogated further. The people need to be served, and the easiest place to serve them is the local government.
All right, so let's talk about some of the intricate problems. Why you think that some of these assembly members are not forthcoming towards the autonomy of the local government?
I wouldn't like to go into specific issues, because we had recent one even here in Osun that is in public space anyway. And as media houses, you must have had discussions about it. Christmas, something, I mean. So those are the issues. You see, you see, it's Machiavellian. You make people poor so that you have absolute control, even of their lives. So you can tell them, leave your family, I want to see you 2 a.m. and he will come. He will come because you have made his life so interwoven into yours, not as an equal partner, but as an appendage. So each time you call, so at that point, you begin to wonder, is it that, and in most cases, there was a time I posited that if you want to be even a councillor, you go for an exam from your party. Because we discover political parties are churning out misfits. Some who don't even know the rules of what they are supposed to do, and he will win the ticket on account of a godfather. And so when he gets there on account of a godfather, he doesn't even know what goes on there. Oh, what were you giving? Say, they gave us this. Okay, leader, how do we do it? You can't grow like that. So that's why we have stunted growth as a nation. It's unfortunate. So assemblies that you're talking about are independent. Then process of recruitment, because it's still recruitment. If people come standing up for election, it's still recruitment. And there are certain laid down rules that if you want to be this, you must have a minimum of this. And at that level, you must have this capacity, you must be healthy, you must know how to, and you must be, proven to be free of corruption. But the system allows people who dance around all of this. From everything, they dance around everything seamlessly, and they come to power. And at the end of the day, you discover some of these things will haunt them. Where you pick somebody as the chairman of a house committee on so and so, and he doesn't even know what he's supposed to do. So somebody that knows will now, as an ordinary member of a committee is the chair of, direct what that committee will have to do. So when you put somebody who knows under somebody who does not know, that person who knows can take advantage and maneuver the person who is supposed to be the leader that has knowledge. We have had that over time. It's unfortunate, but we pray we get out of this someday.
All right, let's relate some of those points that you just made to the local government election that was conducted last year. How do you weigh that? Basically,
I said it severally whenever I was asked that he was not going to hold salt. That election, we had it before also here. We were in a presidential system, and they said parliamentary. Who does that? We cannot be a state within a nation state, and a state within a state. It's not possible. We are in a presidential system. If I want to be a local government chairman, I recall that there was a time that Professor Wole Soyinka said if he wants to contest, we want to contest as a councillor. That's an international. So he says, my area. And I tell you, do you think Soyinka will not become councillor? That would have been development driven.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. So the quality of persons even aspiring for offices at that level is not impressive. That's what he's saying. You know, it's not that impressive. I've seen qualified senior advocate who wanted to be local government chairman. But I've seen they want to be qualified in Nigeria.
Yes, what I'm saying now is, even if they want to be, there is a political leader that's sitting in one corner
that they need to,
that will maneuver the primaries to bring his 2G to office. So they will defeat that qualified person at any primaries.
Well, we'll come back to that. Just hold on. Comrade Lanre further on. So we need to take some updates from the tribunal. Emmanuel Ojadigele. So that's why he's not here with us, with me and Tokwe today. Let's see if we can get him. He's on standby to join us. So today, like we said, the D-Day judgment will be delivered. Judgment will be delivered at the tribunal, and we expect to get some updates from there. Emmanuel is over there and will be joining us. But I understand we need to take a break now. So when we return, perhaps we'll be able to bring you Emmanuel to give us some updates about what's happening there.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is. except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
All right, thank you. So we have Emmanuel Ijadigele joining us live from the venue of the Election Petition Tribunal here in Oshogbo. Thank you so much for connecting with us, Emmanuel.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Femi. It's good to be on the show this morning.
Yeah, tell us, what was it like at the venue of the tribunal? Today is the D-Day. How was it like?
Yes, of course, today is the D-Day, and if you can see just right behind me, there are supporters of the parties. These are supporters of the All Progressives Congress. Let me just switch out the camera. Supporter come out in numbers to try and show up support for the party ahead of the judgment that will be delivered today. The security is tight, all the way from the station down to here to Gifia, where the court is situated. Security is tight. In fact, this particular road has been cordoned off. There is no transport, public transport as where on this road. So that's just, you can see the security agencies stationed right outside here, the purposes of the Osun State High Court, where the judgment will be delivered today. So I am standing with the supporters in their midst, trying to get feelers. Many of them are optimistic about today's sitting. Inside the court, there's legal or no activity. The lawyers are yet to arrive. Some of them are shooting already. I will be moving in towards the court, inside the court shortly. I just wanted to show you what's happening.
And so, the lawyers have not arrived. And what about the judges? And when are we expected to? When is the time that the judgment will be delivered? Have you been given the time yet? Hello, Emmanuel. Hello, can you hear me, Emmanuel? Okay, well, so we have to come back to him. It seems we lost the line to him there, so that we'll come back to get him again. So let's get back to the studio here. Mr. Lanre Fadansi is still with us here. We'll be getting back to Emmanuel to get some more updates from his end there. Okay, so you were talking about the local government, and you were talking about the quality of persons aspiring, and you made reference to. Okay, so we understand Emmanuel is back. Emmanuel. Hello. Okay. So let's get back to today. We seem to having some issues there connecting with them. But you were talking about the local government and how the quality of the persons aspiring to lead at that level.
Yeah.
I said there was a time that Wole Soyinka, Nobel laureate, said wanted to be a councillor. But yeah. I'm sure that's not the case today. Most times today people who've left for that area, sometimes people will maybe not even have education at some level.
It's not because, you see, there's something that people do on purpose. The political leadership do some things on purpose. You cannot, to an extent, as you are an adult, educated, is it easy for anybody to maneuver your brain and you won't be able to assess and say, look, I'm not cut out for this. You understand? So they don't want people they will not be able to control 100%. And to those ones, our leader wants to create opportunity for me to eat, not to serve. And so a leader that can pick 8 out of 10 councillors for a local government can disturb a local government chairman, even if he's competent. Do you get the drift? It's from the word that in the past, in the days of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, you must be recognized in your ward to have been doing well. It is community leaders in those days that were in councillorship positions. Because it was not sitting allowance. So it's not the huge kind of, you just pick one boy from the street and make him a councillor, and suddenly he's earning 350, 400,000 every month. So that person, the leader, can control and say, when you get to office tomorrow, vote against. He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, but do you not think that it's such persons who are very close to the people, who live amongst the people? Do you think that people in that caliber that you were talking about still want to identify with people from the local government?
Now, they would have wanted to, if indeed this autonomy thing works out. And at that extent, it whittles down the influence of governors, of commissioners, among others. Now, I'll tell you where the problem lies today. I was in the local government up until 2012. There was a time we had issue of appointing an Oba. Because within the purview of the local government to do, we went to the community as a committee of the local government officials. We were not politicians. And we met with the chiefs. How is it going to be? They said, we are 7. One of us is ill. And the major person who is supposed to do the traditional rites is not here. I tell you what was happening. We had thugs and everybody surrounding, of course, in that locality, we had to go to that community. And in our wisdom, we said, well, the chairman of our team said, since the person who was supposed to do the traditional rites has not done it, then that is supposed to be a precedent. That one will take place before this voting thing. So when he has done his job, let us come back to this voting issue. However, we have identified security challenges around that place. So immediately the traditional whatever was done, the local government told them to come to the local government. All the chiefs who are supposed to vote in a secure environment. Okay, cast your vote. And the king is sitting now, today. But because of taking away all those responsibilities, which were statutorily responsibilities of the local government, that's where you see all these issues happening. They're accusing some commissioners of being the ones insisting on, you know what we are facing in the state today. So, but if they had allowed, I could recall in the days of Ilorin, I'm not a party man, but like that, the moment the community, the local government says, we have chosen a king, he will lead this, he will go and prostrate. That's all. If you have issues, you go to court. It's not, the local government has brought me what they are supposed to bring to me as governor. I've assented. And so we are prostrating before the king that you have given us. At that time, we did not have this type of issues. At that time, local government chairmen contested to be chairman. Councillors come from their wards and they are chosen. The elections were held and we had that system in place. But gradually, things evolved for the negative for the local government system, and things changed. In the local government system, while we were there, we all agreed and knew pensioners were our organs, even if they were not superior to you by grade level or whatever, by reason of being elders in Yoruba land. They were first paid by the local government. They will collect their salaries some 2-3 days before they pay us who are working within the system. But now you hear that local governments, pensioners have not earned their pay 3-4 months, in some places 2 years, which was not supposed to be.
So what kind of autonomy are we really focusing on? Because
now there are two types of autonomy. There is financial and administrative.
So which one?
It is ideal to have both.
Which one do we have now? Do we have any?
Now, the one that we have now, they are still contesting with that, which is the financial. The financial in the sense that the NFIU have regulations that still gives them the power to monitor how local government resources are being used. However, by the time they throw away this issue of local government autonomy, you can be too sure that the governors will challenge the NFIU relationship with local government funds. They will still challenge that. But the NFIU now, in a way, because it's still in existence, their regulation still controls how the funds of local government are used, because they have an access to where it's coming from, and so they can question who uses what. So what happens is, because of the higher authority of states, they direct local government. I'm telling you this factually. They will say, okay, 30 million out of the money we want to give you is here. So look at this template, that's how you will use it. What type of freedom is that? You see, you give them with one hand and you tell them how it should be used with the other hand. That freedom is no longer there. And even they are running costs. Until the state says they can collect, they can't. As
of now, even with the NFIU order, you're saying the governors still have access to local government?
Because the NFIU functionality would have been seamless if this autonomy had scaled through.
But without the autonomy, how does it work currently?
How it works currently is that, like there was an issue. Let me take example of local government pensioners. The Constitution of Nigeria says you cannot remove from a pensioner's pay. Fine. But you cannot give what you don't have. By reason of borrowings in Osun then, the Osun state government does not have enough money. However, all local governments had money coming from the federation account. They had not taken loans. And local government pensioners, despite the position of the Constitution, were still given half pension. Do you get the drift? Because the Constitution says you cannot tamper with a local government pensioners' pay to the workers' pensioners' pay to its disadvantage, which means, because the Constitution also says 5 years, every 5 years you can review upwards, but you cannot tamper to its disadvantage in the Constitution of Nigeria. And they are going to court to claim, okay, courts tell us we have won or we have lost, and they mount leadership on account of what the court and Constitution says about them. But when the Constitution tells them, don't do this to the set of people, they still did it. 35 months, half pension. When he says, he didn't talk about your workers, because you can still sit with your workers and say, I don't have the money. But now what I'm now saying in essence is this. At that time, the state governments don't have money. So if he tells his workers, can we give you money we don't have, let's ration what we have. But at that time, local governments had money. So why add them to that? But because we say we are pulling resources together, joint account data, that went. Every day you see people talking about it. Where is our arrears? Where is our arrears? But then I know someday we'll get there.
So as of today, does the local government control its own money? Courtesy of that NFIU, or that state should not tamper, or is there still a way that the state, through the back door, takes these funds again?
I'm saying this with all sense of duty and responsibility to the people, that they don't have control over it.
The state or the local government?
The local governments don't. They don't.
Do not have control over their
because if you tell me I have 50 naira, if you tell me I have 50 naira, and in the same vein, you did not ask me what I want to do with my 50 naira. You still tell me what I should do with my 50 naira. Is it mine? You told me that's your money. Okay, let it be in your account. It will rest there for a while. Don't worry. And it rests there, and I'm looking at it. And I'm waiting for instruction how to spend my money. And there is insecurity in some wards that we can just buy some things for the local security guards to secure. I can't do it until they give instruction how I'm going to spend my money. That money is not with them.
Okay, so as we hit the home stretch, we'll be leaving shortly. But so perhaps you just let now maybe you talk about what Nigerians are missing with the current system, and if, for instance, the autonomy is granted and local governments are allowed to function effectively, what will be the benefit or advantage for the country and for Nigeria?
I'll tell you what will be the benefit. Now, with the local government funds, there are demands at a point in time. Reality that local governments could buy brand new graders. Every local government in Osun had it, brand new. Every local government in Osun had 6 tractors, every, at a point in time. And local farmers, instead of using hoes, could come and pay a little to hire the tractors so that they can do more farming than they would have done with hoes and cutlasses. Do you get the ripple effect of what would happen in terms of food production? There were officers in the local government who render services to farmers. They had motorcycles, they had their impress, they ride into the farms, look at the crops. Oh, these are the diseases affecting your crops. These are the chemicals you will use. The local government chairman will buy those chemicals and share to farmers. When it's time to distribute fertilizers, they do that. And so you see yield comes. And the Yoruba say, see, and we don't have access to that again. And the local government, I know of a time that there will be competitions among local governments, directors of agri, and they will say, what have you done? And some will say, I've turned over 2 million that they gave me into 5 million with the poultry, and we still have the birds, and we've been selling eggs. Local governments.
Is that
No, not anymore. Not anymore. So what's and the people buy eggs cheaper from local government farm than they buy on the street. When they harvest maize, they distribute to farmers to replant in most cases. These are things that are helping the system to grow. The healthcare delivery. people say they are going to dispensary because that's the closest to the people in the rural communities. But these days, they don't even have a drugstore anymore in local governments. And in the past, the pharmacy department would purchase drugs, put it in all of the primary healthcare centers. Now those drugs are said, okay, we'll do it jointly from the, but those are the things the people are missing. And factually, they stand to gain more because if it is coming from them, but economic sense of it, let's even look at that. If you have a project in a local government, the carpenters in that local government are the ones that will work on the project. The bricklayers will be the ones that will work on the project. If you have superior engineers that want to supervise, you can do consultancy or whatever with them and still deliver. There are some outfits that are sewing clothes locally in Nigeria, but they have high quality clothes sewn because they will assemble their tailors and say, oh, this is not good enough, go and trash and do it, and pay them based on what they deliver. So in the same vein, that's what we are supposed to look at, that something that will turn economy around. What turns economies around, Femi, Tope, is not the money in the vaults of the banks. It is not the money in the huge accounts of the big people. It is money that is lining the pockets of the common man. And when it is not there, that is when you say there is abject poverty. So if I work for local government, I collect 3,500 naira as my pay for the day. I'll buy rice, maybe 2 cups, 500 naira. The person selling rice has shared out of local government money that I collected for working for them. Okay. So we need to get back to the basics of that to remove poverty. And so local governments should be freed to exist.
Well, we'd like to thank you more sincerely. And I do hope that you also hold out the hope that maybe one day the autonomy will be achieved. Do you see hope that maybe it will happen one day? I'm telling you pointedly
that Nigeria is on teters. This is the last chance as a nation.
All right. Okay.
We must take advantage of it and make everything work as it should.
Thank you very much. Comrade Larry Fadansi, retired as a director on the Local Government Service Commission. We thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll connect with Emmanuel again at the tribunal.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
All right, thank you. So we hit the home stretch here. Just before we go, let's go back to the tribunal where Emmanuel Ujadigele is standing by to give us some more update from what's happening there. Emmanuel, thank you so much for coming in again.
Having me on the show once more, baby.
Yeah, thank you. So, what's up? What's happening at the tribunal?
Well, currently what's happening is that the supporters of the two parties involved, the four parties, I must say, there are four parties to these suits, the first and second petitioner, APC, Gboyega Oyetola, and even five, the PDP is responding, INEC is responding, Governor Adeleke is also responding. Right now at the tribunal, nothing much is happening other than security agents are trying to regulate entrance into the courtroom itself. But outside the courts, there's a heavy security presence all the way from Lameko the road leading from Lameko to Okefia has been cut off from public transport. So if you don't have any business in the court, you're not allowed to take that route. That's how much security has been put in place for today's sitting. I'd like to give you a very quick rundown that this whole thing began immediately after the July 16th governorship election, when incumbent governor at the time, Gboyega Oyetola, and his party, the APC, challenged the declaration of Governor Ademola Adeleke as winner of the election. And right now, that has culminated in today's ruling by the tribunal, the three-man tribunal led by Justice Tetsi Kume. On the 13th of January, some couple of days ago, all the parties to the suit adopted their final written addresses. And so today we're expecting the tribunal to deliver its judgment.
And so it's 6.5 months after the election itself. The elections conducted July 16. It's the end of January here. And, you are part of that process all through. You mind just giving us some hints as to how it went during that process? You covered, quite a number of the sit-ins at that time.
Yes. So it began in August when the tribunal held its pre-trial hearing. A pre-trial hearing is when all parties come together to agree on some sort of ground rules for the proceedings. They're going to agree on the number of days each party will have to respond, each party will have to open and close its case. And all of the 5 parties involved had 10 days each to prosecute their case. In fact, the tribunal had a 180-day term of reference to deliver its judgment until the petition began with the APC, led by 2 senior advocates of Nigeria, Chief Akin Oluchimi and Chief Lateef Fagbemi. The 2 of them prosecuted their case and produced 2 witnesses. So those 2 witnesses were cabinet members of Governor Oyetola at the time. And let me say that the APC is challenging Governor Adeleke's victory on 3 grounds that can be summarized into 3 or 2 grounds. The first ground is on the ground of qualification. They are alleging that the governor is not educationally qualified to run for office. They're also alleging that there were cases of electoral infractions and particularly overvoting in 749 polling units across the state in that election. So the government, the APC and the Governor Oyetola prosecuted that case by providing 2 witnesses. And then it was the turn of the first respondent, which was INEC. INEC also provided 1 witness, the director of ICT, deputy director of ICT, to defend the use of beavers in the election. But I must also say that at some point, INEC was subpoenaed to bring the clear copies of Governor Ademola Adeleke's documents to court. And so INEC produced this witness. PDP, Adeleke produced his own witness to defend his educational qualification. But interestingly, the PDP did not produce any witness. And so all the parties rested their cases and adopted their final addresses on the 13th of January. But in the course of the proceedings, there were some incidents, some sort of disagreement between both counsel, all the counsel involved in the petition, but you cannot rule that out because it is expected. There were times where the APC was seemingly wasting time, or the PDP or INEC was also seemingly wasting time, because of some issues that they had. But for the 6 months, I must say, it's been a process that has showed that the judiciary can actually do the right thing. The judiciary can be on the path of justice and righteousness as it should be. Because we've seen cases where, right here in the court, the parties to the petition were trying to dilly-dally, and the judiciary, the panel had to exercise its powers to compel all the parties to do the right thing. So that's how it has been so far. And there's been no case of any violence within the court between the counsel. Probably that's because most of the counsel are senior advocates. They're very senior lawyers who are trying to set the right path for their followers. And so it's been such a smooth process for all the parties involved in the petition.
Well, so, this morning, what time do we expect the judges to start delivering the judgment?
Well, according to the notice released by Secretary to the Tribunal, Mike David, the Tribunal was supposed to sit by 9 a.m. But at the time, as we speak now, I'd like to just turn the camera a bit and take a walk into the court and show you what's happening. Right now, you can see security agents stationed everywhere, right here in front of the court, also regulating entrance into the court. You can see some persons who are even journalists are regulated are not allowed to enter. That's what's happening here. I'll try to show you inside of the court in a moment. You can see that it's still a little bit scanty. Just a few lawyers have taken their seat, and that's what is currently happening this morning. So we're expecting that any time from now, the members of the panel will be showing up in court to deliver ruling on this particular case.
Okay, so just before we let you go, Emmanuel, you mind sharing with us who are the members of this panel, the names of the judges on the panel?
Oh, well, for the duration of the tribunal, the only name that has been recurring is that was given out is that of the chair of the panel. That's Justice Tetsy Kume. He's the head of the panel. Do you mind me bringing someone on the show to talk to us?
Okay, so let's hear.
Okay, so I'm trying to bring on the spokesperson or director of media for the APC in the States, Mr. Kola Olabisi, who joins us live on Western Spring Television. Good morning, thank you for joining us. Good morning. So Femi, I'm here with Mr. Kola Olabisi, director of media for APC in Osun State. Now I'm going to ask you, sir, the judgment will be delivered today. Mind telling us what your thoughts are about the judgment and what you're expecting?
Well, let me just first of all correct you.
No, okay.
I am Chief Kola Olabisi.
Chief Kola Olabisi.
I'm not Mr. So be that as it may, it is on record that we prosecuted our case. That is our petition. So diligent, and we are not expecting anything less than to come out victorious. So in today's judgment. So we don't have there's no tension anywhere, you can see. So we are not expecting anything less. We are coming out victorious.
All right. Femi, do you have any questions for him?
Well, so I think that settles it. I mean, it's just to ask what expectations are, about the outcome, and they said there is no.
Can you come again?
Yes. So I mean, it's just I think you've asked the key question here about what his expectations are about the outcome. I mean, about the process itself today.
So I've said that.
Yes.
We are not expecting anything less than to come out victorious because we prosecuted our petition diligently. So our former governor, Yetola, can be likened, to a very brilliant student. So who worked and toiled day and night. So and during the examination, he has nothing to fear.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay,
so I'm trying to get PDP chief. Can I have anything? Oh, yes, I have the publicity secretary of the PDP in Osun State who joined us live on Western Spring Television this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Osun. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, so tell us what are your expectations from today's ruling? Can we move a little bit? So, I'm joined now by the publicity secretary of the PDP in Osun State. To tell us what are your expectations from today's tribunal?
Nothing but victory. We knew from time that it is incumbent on us to defend the people, freely given to our governor, Senator Ademola Jackson Adeleke, and that we have done so diligently in the course of the litigation. Today, like Vika saying that there's no need for the dead does not need prayers again. It is the day of judgment, and for us, we are optimistic, we are confident that by the grace of God, victory will be ours today.
All right, Femi, do you have any questions for him?
I mean, not anymore. I think he has answered the question that I would have loved to ask.
All right, so I would like to ask, do you have confidence in the tribunal led by Justice Tetsy Kume?
Yes, if we don't have confidence, we would have mentioned that in the course of the litigation. For us, judiciary is an integral part of political jurisprudence in this part of the world, and they are doing their job, and we believe they will be fair, firm, and courageous enough to do justice to the case before them. So there's no, we have absolute confidence in that.
All right, thank you very much. He is the Publicity Secretary of the PDP in Osun State.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Well, that's it. We're still in court. We've heard from chieftains of the APC and the PDP expressing confidence in the judiciary and saying that they expect, both of them expect to emerge victorious. But the noise you could hear in the background was the security agency is trying to regulate entrance into the courtroom itself. The lawyers are already taking their seats, and so that means that any time from now, the tribunal members will be coming to deliver judgments.
All right, so it's 15 minutes to 9. Does it look like the judges will sit by 9 to start delivering judgment from what you're seeing there?
Well, unfortunately, following the trends of the proceedings itself, for some reason, they've not really kept to time. So I don't think, from my assessment, I don't think that they will be sitting. But probably because today is the day to deliver judgment, they will be on time. Like I said, the lawyers have, like you saw earlier, the lawyers have already taken their seats, and it's expected that any moment from now, the justices will walk in and start today's proceedings.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Ujadigele. We hope to get more from you later on. Just keep us updated, and trust to keep to the code that will break the news first.
All right, thank you so much, Rami. Do have a good day.
Thank you too. All right, so Emmanuel Ujadigele, they're giving us updates right from the venue of the tribunal, and today is the D-Day. He gave us updates as regards what's happening in the security presence and spoke to both chieftains of the APC and the PDP. So heightened security as well. We do hope that everything goes off peacefully today,
yes,
and there'll be no incidents.
That's one step in the right direction today.
Yeah. Okay, so we need to run. We'll be back here on Monday, but stay with us all through today on Western Spring Television on the Star Times channel 190 on the DTT platform, and also on YouTube, WSTV, Western Spring Television, so that you can get updates. It's really about what will be happening at the tribunal. Thank you so much. Femi Olanipeku is my name. Good morning.
Thanks for staying with us on the show today. I am Temitope Ajalola. Good morning.